Football.Fun has only been live for a few weeks, and it already feels like we've been through a full bull and bear market. In this video, I'm going to give you my honest opinions about the platform, the good, the bad, and how I'm approaching the game moving forward. Football.Fun is billed as a fantasy game where you compete with the top 200 players in the top 5 leagues of Europe. Now, to get to that point, there had to be some sort of shared distribution to allow everybody to accumulate the players that they want to play the game with. And that's where we saw some significant volatility. Releasing 10 players every day in a kind of a free-for-all market, waiting for a countdown, and everybody goes to buy players at the same time, obviously led prices to skyrocket very quickly. We saw some players double, triple, 8x, 10x, 50x from their introductory price. And over the next few days, we saw them come tumbling down. And that's unfortunately probably pretty normal for what this project is in terms of getting it started. That people were figuring out kind of what things were worth, where they thought player prices were going to go, while also trying to figure out which players to target for the fantasy game moving forward. And of course, Twitter lit up with screenshots. You know, the ones where somebody says, oh, I turned $500 of Lamine Yamal into $10,000. And while those are all super exciting and they get lots of attention, they don't necessarily represent the experience of everybody else on the platform. They kind of make the game look like a money printer, and we all know that that's not really a sustainable platform. So what happens when people see these screenshots is literally FOMO. And so they come in, they end up buying at the top or near the top, and then they expect the same returns, and inevitably they don't. Prices cool off, and then all of a sudden there's kind of this negative feeling around the platform because you saw all of these people making all of this money, we think, and you feel like you got in too late. And that's not the fault of those users because that's kind of just the natural hype cycle, but it does create significant frustration amongst people who either think that they weren't early or that they want to try the actual game at a difficult time when the market is just trying to figure itself out. And basically what we've been seeing over the last week or two is a significant correction in the market. Now, I realize that calling a drastic drop a correction makes it sound a lot better than it is, but people are taking their profits if they had any. There are significant users who are taking losses just to get out because they ended up joining without the understanding of what the platform really is. And so we saw all of these people who saw these screenshots, wanted to get in, love crypto, love being able to get cheap shares, thinking that they'll be able to double, triple, quadruple their money. And when it didn't happen, we see a drop. And inevitably, that's why we see this big chart that goes significantly up when everybody came in, and then this kind of drop where people who didn't necessarily want to continue on the platform got out. And now it feels like we're kind of left with a little bit of stability, if you can call it that, where we're trying to see where the game and the prices of shares actually settle moving forward. But one of the things we really have to remember is that these crazy kind of up and down swings are just a part of the price discovery of the platform. They're not the long-term reality of the game. Now, I think we will see prices move up and down as long as the game exists. But these really drastic ones for what feels like every player on the platform probably won't be sustained. So once we get over the significant roller coaster of prices, we start to move on to how the game is actually played. And we've seen some other people with frustration about how many tournament points they get, how many skill points they are going to win each tournament. And inevitably, we have people who are really excited to open their packs and not necessarily able to recognize the fruits of those packs because they don't have the skill points. Now, there have been some adjustments to the game already where it seems like more people are able to promote from their development squad to their active squad so that they can either sell those shares or use them in future fantasy tournaments. But the concept, I think, is bigger than the reality at this point. And that's not to say that the reality is bad, but I think the market volatility has actually made people ignore the fantasy game a little bit, or they are winning fewer shares than they thought because prices are up, or they're winning more that they're down, but they're not winning the skill points. And they're still trying to figure out how the game is played. And because they're not getting that immediate success in the fantasy game that they felt like they were getting in the market, there's kind of a negative feeling towards the fantasy game, which is actually a very compelling game if you dive into it. So the question really becomes, can we actually play the game? And the answer is absolutely we can. We just have to remember that part of the game is the trading platform. Now, I described the game as kind of a crypto project with footballers and said that to Adam, the co-founder of Football.Fun, in a video that we did last week. And here's his response to it. It seems like you look at this as a crypto, and the way that I've kind of explained it to people is that it's a crypto project with footballers, and it's not necessarily a football game that happens to be on crypto. Like, I think the crypto part of it is important. And whether that puts people off or not, I mean, I then kind of follow up that I was like, if I can figure the crypto stuff out, anyone can. Like, I don't consider myself any sort of crypto expert. So you see, he had that little like head shake where I feel like he probably didn't fully agree with me. And he does say kind of elsewhere in the video that he is absolutely trying to build a great fantasy football platform that that he's been working on for years. And he's been involved in other platforms, either as a user or otherwise. And so he really wants to make this a great game for people to have fun. And obviously that's where the name comes from. But we have to remember that what is going on right now in terms of the market volatility or your tournament point volatility is all heightened because of the launch. Now, I'm optimistic about the platform. I think the game is really great. I've been playing it since the beta, which was back, that led up to the Champions League final. They had a Club World Cup. The game is really engaging when you get into it. And I think what we're seeing now is this introductory period that is necessary in order to get the game off the ground. But if it's something that is a little too volatile for you, or you don't appreciate the way that some users are talking about the platform, I totally get it. But I also think that it's a worthwhile platform to be involved in. And if you want to wait until everything kind of settles down, that's totally cool. And today is Wednesday, September 3rd. We have the last of the first 100 players being dropped today. There are 10 more. And then we'll find out some more details about how the next 100 are going to get on the platform. But if you have been put off by Football.Fun because of all of the 10x, 100x screenshots and what felt like crypto Twitter kind of taking over, maybe just hold off. And I think that's totally fine. But keep it in the back of your mind and check back in a week, in 2 weeks, to see where things are, because I think there is a fantastic platform here. Whether you love fantasy football, whether you love trading and markets, or you love both. And so the idea is that feel free to come back, ask your questions in the comments of this video, or find me on Twitter or Discord, and I'll be happy to walk you through it. So those are my honest thoughts on the platform. The volatility we've seen is real, but I don't think it lasts forever. And I'm approaching Football.Fun as a long-term fantasy game, not some sort of like quick flip situation. And so, like I said, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments of this video. You can find me on Twitter or Discord. I'm happy to talk about it because there has been a lot said about Football.Fun by people who are either not involved in the platform and feel like they have a handle on it from a distance, and some people who are very much involved in it and still aren't really saying the right things. And so I would love to hear from you. If you're trading, if you're playing the tournaments, what you're doing, drop them in the comments and we can talk about it some more. And obviously, if you're looking for more Football.Fun content, subscribe to the channel. And if you're not already on the platform and would like to join, there's a link in the description as well. Once you get up to level 10 rep, you will get a free pro pack. So join in, and can't wait to hear from you.